Hello friends, it's Kathy Clement with Kathy by Design. Welcome to Wonderful Wednesday. This is a weekly tutorial that I do here on my YouTube channel, and it's designed to inspire you to break into your stash of paper pretties and make something beautiful. All this month we are working with Paper Rose Bees and Butterflies collection. But because this is the third week, it is our Choose Your Own Adventure card making tutorial. This is where we make 2 cards using 2 different paper collections, but the same design. So our other collection that we're working with is Graphic 45's Season to Celebrate. We're using the July summer papers. And we're making 2 different cards. These are a really fun little design I came up with. It's an envelope card. So the front looks like a standard card. This is 5 by 7. And here we've got this pretty little fussy cut teapot and a shaker frame that I'll show you how to create, a lovely little ceramic bee, some little posies, and all these pretty shaker elements inside. It opens up. Here's a little birthday greeting, a pocket with a tag, and a packet of sunflower seeds, room to write a little note. But then the real fun is on the back side, because this is an envelope, and I'm going to show you how to create a 5 by 7 envelope just using your scoring tool and some paper. Has a magnetic closure. Inside we have a tea bag and our journal cards for July. And I've backed them with plain cardstock so you can add photos or notes or lists, whatever you wish to do. So these are a really fun design. And both of these cards, this is the one that we made with the Graphic 45. I love it. And then this is the one that we made with the butterflies and bees. So you can see, same recipe, but totally different look between these 2 cards. This one has a shaker window that we cut with our circle dies. This lovely Renee bouquets, bees and beehive, a little birthday greeting, little posy, a little honey jar with ribbon and a button on the inside. Here's our birthday greeting, and our pocket has a little tag, sunflowers, strawflower seeds, and a little bookmark, just a simple bookmark. So you're going to learn how to create both the card base and the envelope. The back of this one, here's our envelope, little magnetic closure, tea bag, honey stick, and a couple of journal cards. So very fun, a really surprising way to give a gift. They both have tea and honey, which is great. You've got room to tuck in a gift card. They will stand up for display, so that's very, very nice. And if you would like to learn how to make these envelope cards, stick around because the tutorial is coming up next. Let's go ahead and get started with this tutorial. And to make our card base for the front, I have 2 10.5 by 6 3/4 inch pieces of 110-pound cream cardstock, and I'm going to score these at 5 1/4. All right, and then just simply fold in half to make a basic tent card. Then you're going to need 2 squares of 10 by 10 cardstock, and I like to work with 80-pound. I find that if you go heavier than 80-pound, it's a little bit difficult to work with. So this is old authentic Spectrum, but any 80-pound cardstock that you have in your stash will work. I've turned this on the diagonal. I have the point in the 6, and because it's a little long, I also line up my ruler at the base so that I can make sure that bottom point is also lined up at 6. And I know that's hard for you to see, but I just have my ruler below my scoring tool. So now I'm going to score this at 2.5, and I'm going to score it at 9.5. I'm going to turn it, line my points up again, and I'm going to score it at 3. And I'm going to score it again at, whoops, see, I'm trying to make sure I'm straight here, at 8. So if you look at this, you've got a short triangle here and a longer triangle here. Fold this short triangle, lay it against the left-hand side of your scoring tool, come over here to 8.5, and score again, okay? And just fold this in. So now we've got our envelope, right? We're going to fold in all these scored lines. And the nice thing about using patterned cardstock is that you don't have to come back and line your envelope. It's pre-lined for you. And then this becomes, the reason we did this here, this is the platen on the envelope, so you get that really professional looking finish, and these fold in, and this folds up, and you'll glue these together, but we have to do some cutting first. So now that you're all folded, if you look in the corners, you'll see these little triangles. They're small on one side and they're larger on the other. We're just going to clip these out because this makes the envelope fold much more neatly. So these little ones here, and then up here you've got these larger ones, and this is the side that has that platen on it that we scored in. Now you don't have to cut these out, but I do find that the envelope looks a lot more professional and it closes better if you do this. All right. Now we're going to take our adhesive and we're going to glue our platen down. We're going to fold our sides in and see how the points meet, so you know you're nice and straight. We're going to place adhesive here and here. Don't go on the top, because if you do, you glue your envelope shut. Fold this bottom flap up and just press this into place. So now you can look, see, I can trim this little excess off here. That looks really good. I've got just a little nib here. It's really hard to cut on a scored line, but the good thing is you can go back in after the fact and clean it up real well. So the last thing we have to do in the creation of the actual envelope, and you know, you can make these. Now you can make a card, an envelope for your own handmade cards, which is very nice. I'm going to show you how to place the magnet, and I want my magnet to be right about here. So I'm going to come in. These are basic gray magnetic snaps, and they stopped making them a little while ago, Basic Gray sadly went out of business. I found these online back when Joann's was still in business, and Joann's is gone now. But if you look, I think Country Craft Creations might carry them. And if they don't, you can get these thin, strong magnets. 49 and Market makes them. They don't have the adhesive on them. But do you see how I placed my negative magnet right on top of my positive? And it went right in place. Now I press and I lift, and I'm going to put a little bit of adhesive, because just for security, right? Because not all adhesives are created equal. And I like score tape. I find it's very strong. A lot of people like Stampin' Up, tear and tape, whatever strong double-sided adhesive you like. And when we line our envelope, these magnets will be covered up and you won't see them, but it makes a nice, neat closure. So there's probably a technical way to do this, but you know, sometimes easy is best. So I've got a sheet of my 6x6 paper, and I'm tucking it inside my envelope, and I'm kind of leveling it out so that this little piece on the side is about the same on each side. I'm going to flip this guy over. I'm going to take my pencil, which is somewhere, here it is, and I'm going to trim. I'm going to trace just like this. All right. And then I'm going to come in with my scissors and I'm going to cut inside this cut line. In fact, I'm not even going to use my scissors. I'm going to use my trimmer, and I'm going to go, I can see my line, and I want to go about 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to start with this one. It's easier. A little bit more. So there's one. And there's two. And now I can cut off these little corners pretty easily. Okay. And now this will fit nicely, just like that. So you've got your little border, and you'll just glue this in place and remove the tape from your magnet, okay? Once you've lined it, you're just going to gently fold it down, bring in your bone folder, and re-burnish over this crease, okay? For the envelope flap, I chose this pretty little bee print, and I'm going to take just a tiny bit of score tape to hold that in place. It's kind of a cheater. I'm going to unsticky it just a little bit. I don't want it super sticky. So I'm just putting my thumb on it to reduce there, but it will still hold it, see? So now I'm going to press that down, flip it over, and I'm going to trace around it with my pencil. And then I'm going to cut on the inside line. I'm going to clean up my wobbly cutting. All right, let's see how that looks. All right, there you go. You can actually take a little more off this one side over here. And now we're even on both sides, see? So we can glue this down on our envelope flap. You can see this is not hard. This is just basic tracing and cutting. Once you've got the envelope made, it's all pretty easy from there. See how easy? So glue that down. To line this bottom part of the envelope, I've cut a 6 3/4 by 4 3/4 piece of my 12 by 12 paper. I'm going to tuck this inside, and I want it lined up. So I've got it nice and straight in there. And again, I'm just going to take my pencil and trace. Then I'm going to take my scissor and cut on the inside line. So what I'm going to do is fold this in half. I'm going to make these two sides match. Notice I didn't crease it, I just kind of folded it. When we put our adhesive on there, it'll make it right as rain. Okay. See how good that looks? That is so nice. All right. So I'm just going to make sure I erase all my pencil marks, and then I'm going to take my tape liner off and glue this piece down. So there's our first envelope, all finished. We don't have to do anything on the front, of course, because our card is going to go on the front. All right. So go ahead and do the same thing with your second envelope using the Graphic 45 papers. So we're going to glue that in there. And then on the bottom, I have the 6x6 floral print. But on the flap, I'm kind of cheating a little bit because I needed some variety. And this gingham check works really, really well with the floral. So I'm going to put that on the outside flap. So everything else do just like we did on the other one, but substitute a piece of the butterflies, bees and butterflies for the outside flap. Let's go ahead and build the cover for our card. So I've cut a 6 7/8 by 4 7/8 inch piece of this cherry colored cardstock. And then I matted a 6 1/2 by 4 1/2 inch of the 8 by 8 floral pattern. I took some lace from my stash and just glued it down with my Dry's clear glue and then added buttons in the corner. So you can do this or not do this, it's up to you. But I want to create a shaker cover. So I took this frame, which is supposed to be oriented vertically, but I want it horizontal. And I don't like the shiny finish on the frames, so I laid down more of this pretty lace on that. And this just makes a really summery, light looking card, I think. I glued down, I used score tape to attach my acetate and then put one layer of foam tape on the back. So we're going to create a shaker element here, and I brought in some Buttons Galore and More and some Pink Fresh to go into our shaker window. I like to mix and match different shaker pieces that are in my stash. And I just like, I like to start out with the gems facing upwards. I think we have a better chance. I feel like you have a better chance of actually being able to see the gems. These are really pretty together with this paper collection. There's like a bit of a pinky red in there, and there's some green and clear. So it sparkles and it looks really good, I think. So let's just get these guys flipped over. I'm going to put these in the position where I feel like I want them. All right. That looks pretty good. Oops, these little half pearls don't want to stay flipped over. There we go. There we go. I'm going to take my foam tape, and when you're doing a shaker frame, you always want to make sure that your foam tape is firmly butted up against each piece, because otherwise you're going to end up with leaks in your shaker, and that's always really sad. Push this up a little, and I want to center this on the left. And press that into place. So now I can move my shakers around. Isn't that pretty? That is so pretty in there. I debated on going with red, but I really like the softer colors. Then from the 12 by 12, I fussy cut out this pretty poppy and wildflower teapot. I have a single layer of pop dots. These are from Buttons Galore and More, and I will link to them because they are wonderful. And then I put a triple layer on the outside edge of my teapot. And this is going to level it, and this is going to go right here. So pretty. Okay. And then from the chipboard, I took Hello Sunshine, and I glued one of my little rhinestone bees, and I've got foam tape on the back, but I'm also going to add just a touch of adhesive to make sure that it really sticks. All right, and now we're just going to set this aside to dry. Now we're going to go to work on the inside. You can see I haven't put anything on the cover yet. I just find it's easier to work that way. And I cut 2 more panels, 6.5 by 4.5 of our cherry red cardstock. And on the top, to use up my scraps, I put down this 6.25 by 3.25 panel from the 8 by 8, and then this little strip, also 6.25 of the border cut from the 12 by 12. And we're going to take our happy birthday and many more and put it up here in the corner. This is one of my sentiments from my birthday card kit that I did for Button Farm Club, and I had some left over. So I just matted this on a little piece of green, and I hit the sentiment with some distress inks to create that pretty background. Yeah, straight is always good. There we go. Well, now it looks more crooked than it did before. Let's see. That looks good. On the bottom, I want to create a little pocket. So I took this journal card from the 12 by 12 and matted it on a slightly larger piece of cardstock. Then I cut a 1" by 4" gusset, scored it in half at 1/2, and this is going to go on the left-hand side like this. Okay. And then for the top and bottom, these are 3" by 1" scored in half at 1/2 inch. And these are going to go here and here. And in case you're new to gussets, they're just a folded sort of a hinge that allows us to use the full width of a pocket, and we adhere the folded edge against the cut edge of our paper. And then you can put more in your pocket, because anytime you put adhesive down, it spreads and you don't get the full width of your pocket. And it also allows you to put dimensional things into your pocket. So this fits perfectly here on, oops, before I put that down though, I got ahead of myself. Here's another little scrap from the 8 by 8. This is 3 3/4 by 4 1/4. And this is going to fit right here. So we're going to center this up on the right, like this. And then we're going to put our pocket down on the left. Center our pocket up on the left. So you see how nice that looks? That just makes a really handsome pocket. And we can put our tea bag in there because it's a really good color match. I'm going to let the glue set before I do that though. So now this is ready to get the card front. I'm going to do it this way so that I'm centered. And I want the bottom edge to line up with the bottom edge of my card cover. And you'll see I did add a tiny little cluster of little flowers. I went with the gold and the yellow to coordinate with the paper collection. And one of the things I like to do is I just use little clips to encourage my glue to take hold so that I don't have to stand here forever just holding it. So I'm just going to put my little clips on here, and then I'm going to set this aside and we will move on. So here's our envelope. We've lined it. We've got our magnets. Inside, I've prepared the 2 journal cards, and on the back I put 3 3/4 by 5 3/4 inch pieces of cream cardstock, so you can put photos or personal messages in there. And then there's also a packet of sunflower seeds, but I think I'm going to put the sunflower seeds inside. We're going to leave this just like it is. That's all we're going to put inside because then it will lay nice and flat. So let's bring this in. Our glue should be set. We're going to adhere this to our envelope front. If you wanted to, you could put gussets on the back. I thought about doing that, but I decided I liked this idea better because it's going to be less bulky. And I'm just centering this up on my envelope like this. I'm going to bring my clips in, but that is the first card. And then on the inside, you'll put your goodies, and then on the back, you've got your cute little pocket. It's such a fun design. So let's go ahead and do the one with bees and butterflies. Let's go ahead and get started on this second card. And you can see I took a piece of green cardstock from my stash. This is 6 5/8 by 4 5/8, and then I stitched on a 6 1/2 by 4 1/2 panel from the Bees and Butterflies 12 by 12, and then I had this scrap that I trimmed to fit from corner to corner. Now the easiest way for you to do this is to cut a 4 1/2 by 4 inch rectangle and then make a diagonal cut from the top left to the bottom right, and you'll have this little triangular piece. I just wanted to get some bees in there. So stitched around that and then added this burlap trim on the bottom. Next, I made a shaker frame and showed you how to do this last week in the Banner of the Month tutorial. And I'll link to that in the description box below so that you can go and find that. But basically, I took 2 circle dies and I layered the largest and the smallest one together so that the gap was even all the way around. And then I die cut twice to create a nice sturdy frame that went over this die cut circle that I cut with the largest frame. And then I also die cut the acetate, just backed it with my foam, and just like every other shaker card, put that all together. So this is going to go over here toward the right hand side. I'm going to center it up on the right. I'm just going to check the position because I also have, yes, okay, so that's a good spot for that. And I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. And And I used 1/8 inch foam tape. I get mine from scrapbook.com. And this is a good time to remind you that I always put a linked supply list to my blog, on my blog, and the link to my blog in the description box below the video. This is a Rene Bouquet's beehive, and I put a foam pop dot on the side that goes up against our shaker, and then a triple layer of them on the outside edge to level it out. And this is going to go right here, just like this. And then to go on this, I've got one of these beautiful Rene Bouquet bees. I just think this really makes everything pop. I love how this comes together. It's very sweet. And then this is one of the fussy cuts from the paper collection. And I've put a little pop dot here. I'm going to put this up here on my shaker frame. And then I went into my stash and I found this pretty yellow flower that I'm going to tuck right here. And hold on, I've got a couple of little burlap bows. I'm still waiting for my glue gun to heat up, but this is going to go right here, and I'll have a little bow coming here and then one here, and that will finish the cover. So we'll just set this aside for now. On the inside of the card, I did the same thing on the top, where I lined the top and the bottom with 6.5 by 4.5 cardstock, and then I cut this 6.25 by 3 panel of this beautiful creamy floral, and then a little 6.25 by 1 inch piece of the gingham check. Left a space between, and then joined those together with another one of my digital birthday stamps from Button Farm Club. Going to be centered over here on the right. And then on the left, I had the offcut, which is 1 3/4, and I cut it to 5 1/4. Then I scored a flap on the top and the bottom. I made a little 1 inch by 4 inch gusset to go on the outside edge to make a little side pocket, just like we did on the first card, just a slightly different configuration. And this is going to get centered up just like this. Okay, so there's that. Then to go in the pocket, I've got a little packet of flower seeds. And I like to wait for that glue to dry, but I just want to show you. And this cute little tag from the paper collection that I matted on a piece of green, added some ribbon trim and a little charm, and that can go in there. I also created a bookmark, just a simple bookmark, with one of the images from the paper collection, and those will all live in that pocket. So that is that. Inside, I added this little fussy cut beehive and just a little banner flag here, a little bee here. And on the inside, I cut this image from the paper collection, matted it on a slightly larger piece of green, and then put a 3.5 by 5.5 inch mat on the back for writing a note. So that goes inside our envelope that we created together. This honey stick goes inside the envelope. This is one of the 3x4s that I matted on a slightly larger piece of yellow cardstock, and that can go in here. You can put a photo on the back or write a note. And then this really pretty yellow tea bag. So that all lives in that pocket. Now all we have to do, is I'm going to take these out. I'm going to attach our card to the front of the envelope. And I found it's easier to do this if you go ahead and open the card, because then you can see if you're straight or not. Okay. I'm going to take the things out of the inside as well so that I can There we go. All right, see? We'll finish up, my glue gun is hot now, so we'll finish up this little floral element. Put that right there. When I do my bows, I like to pull the loops back, and I put the glue right on the knot. And then I'm going to just lift and tuck this in right here. And I've got a second one to go on the bottom. I just like the look of burlap with this paper collection. I just think it looks nice. I like burlap with bees anyway. All right, so now this can be glued. On our card front, I'm just going to center it up. There we go. And what a fun way to present a little birthday card or a get well card. You could tuck whatever little goodies you would like inside. I just think it's really sweet, and I enjoyed making it. I hope you enjoyed it too. I will be back next week with our Wind Back Wednesday, and I'm probably going to pull out some older bee collections that I have in my stash. That should be fun. There will be a linked supply list on my blog. The link to my blog is in the description box below this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thanks so much for crafting with me. Go get your craft done. Bye.